Suspended police head of organized crime, that's Major General Richard Shibiri, in the hot seat before the inquiry in Pretoria this morning. In fact, later on, we anticipate that he may be grilled about his alleged links to cartel members and interfering in the investigation of the killing of Vereniging engineer Ahmad Swart. Swart was gunned down outside his workplace in April of 2024 in a case of mistaken identity. SABC News reporter Kenny Madlanga is keeping tabs on the story and joins us now live once again from the Bridget Mabandla Justice College, where Kenny, as expected, Richard Shibiri has spent much of the first leg of his testimony really outlining his background and how he got involved in some of the work of the SAPS with virtually very little pushback or interference.
Indeed. Good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers once again. We now know that the now suspended component head for organized crime, that is Major General Richard Shibiri, has given his statement, or is still continuing with his statement. And as has become the norm, they usually implicated persons get to give their statement first before that probing questioning begins. Now, although the testimony is having a bit of a slow start as he goes through his role, his qualifications, his years of experience within the South African Police Services, I think there are clues that you can still pick up on from the evidence in chief, in which he speaks about coaching, if we could put it that way, and how his role is that of a strategic one and not that of one that delves directly into operations, coupled up with his testimony that the Gauteng office is different to that of other regions because of their centrality, that persons who have any complaints about police stations or how their dockets are being handled will then go over to the head office to get that kind of reprieve. And then we're also hearing that as the strategic head, sometimes they have access to those dockets to peruse them. And I think that is a precursor to his defense to the allegations that he is facing, which largely center on interference with respect to particular dockets, and namely that of the Ahmad Swart murder case. And perhaps this is something that he's going to bring up, or the coaching aspect at least, Ayanda, to explain his interest, if we could put it that way, into the investigations of witness A and B. Now, we've already heard during phase one that they have phrased this or termed this or described it as a means to interfere in order to, I guess, diminish those investigations into alleged cartel members and to shield them from any form of accountability. But we are seeing from the evidence in chief by Shibiri that this is going to likely be a precursor to explain his conduct with respect to the dockets, or having access to those dockets, or taking an interest into the work of the investigations. Of course, he is sitting for this one day, we expect, and then tomorrow we don't actually expect the commission to sit, but that will be confirmed at a later stage if that is the case. So it doesn't take much of his evidence, or rather his statement, to get through some of these issues. They're quite clear-cut issues. It's questions of whether or not he interfered in the investigation into Ahmad Swart, whether or not he interfered into the posts of Musa Kawula and the subsequent warrant of arrest. Did he try to intimidate those investigators by calling them and name-dropping several names related not only to the alleged cartels but businessmen and politicians in order to deter investigations into those particular alleged cartel members? Did he transport one of those investigators to the so-called White House, where we're hearing there were alleged questionable characters there as well that are linked to these alleged shadowy dealings? So those are simple questions he has to answer, and of course it speaks to the overall compromise of the South African Police Services, Ayanda, and whether or not these high-ranking SABC officials were in collusion or not with these various alleged cartel members.
Yeah, the other, I suppose, clear-cut issue he'll have to respond to, Kenny, is whether or not he did receive that 80,000 Rand gift, apparently, from the likes of Vusimuzi Madlanga.
Indeed, that is one of the primary allegations, although we see Shibiri's name coming up a lot with allegations surrounding Katiso Katie Molefe and the alleged crimes he's implicated in. Vusimuzi Madlanga also does feature in relation to the alleged monetary gift of 80,000 Rand, and he'll have to explain what, if that took place, indeed what that payment was for and what the alleged benefit is. This is all in the context of which we've seen Vusimuzi Madlanga allegedly strategically targeting, for a lack of a better term, these high-ranking SABC officials, all in this context of trying to safeguard his SABC contract and his interests as an alleged businessman in that regard. And of course, what then does that extend to Shibiri? What was that 80,000 rand about? We expect that the Commission will be seeking those answers when he takes the stand again in the next minute, where he'll continue with that particular testimony. And of course, as I've stated earlier, it's always a bit of a slow start when they go through the statement in chief, because the Commission has to allow them that time to give that particular statement without interruption, without feeling any prejudice, give their full right to be heard, and then that is when the probing questions will continue after that to get an understanding of the conduct of the allegations at play. So we've seen him not only put the structure out that this is a quote-unquote strategic role, not that of direct investigations, and then of course how does that fare with the conduct where it is alleged that he was directly involving himself in those particular operations.